Hello again. This is the Wakegan from wakeganway.com. Check out my blogs, check out my writings. Again, wakeganway.com. This is another video in what I'm calling my Blackout series, where I'm talking about topics where either I'm talking about people that I know who I can't tell their identity, or I'm talking about a subject that's come up but I don't want to give the person who the subject is about too much attention. And so, to symbolize that, the screen is going to be black, just so you know. As far as this topic goes, this is a topic dealing with the actions of Tila Nguyen and how it's affecting people, and it leads to another question that I'll get into. Now, Tila Nguyen, some of you know that name. Others of you do not know that name because she professionally goes by another name, and I'm not going to say what name she goes by professionally to give her more attention. If you do decide you want to Google who Tila Nguyen is, just keep in mind that a lot of the stuff that she's done is not safe for work, and it's not good to view around children. I'll put it that way. If you still want to look it up, you've been warned. But Tila has been suspended from Twitter because of some pictures focusing on her doing Nazi salutes. She's allegedly been online writing pro-Nazi things. She even allegedly went as far as to say that Adolf Hitler would be her boo. Now, of course, that sounds crazy to most people, but it's crazier because the name Tila Nguyen, well, as you can tell by that name, she's not a white woman. She doesn't even look remotely white. She is Asian, Vietnamese to be exact. And so clearly she would not be part of the master race. She wouldn't have even been used by the Nazis unless it was for propaganda or for something that we probably don't even want to know about. But because of this, it's something that has embarrassed many people in the Asian community, to the point that some people don't even want her identified as being Vietnamese, don't want her to be identified as being Asian at all, because it's so humiliating and embarrassing that she's been doing these things. And these stories about her have been out there for years, about her saying very racist things, saying a lot of white supremacist stuff, pro-Nazi stuff allegedly. So if you want to look it up, you can. I'm not going to look it up or anything else besides what I already know about this particular woman. But she's really become the poster child for the term model minority. And so some people know what that is, other people don't. But what a model minority is it's a minority who is in the United States who doesn't want to make waves, doesn't want to complain, views that it's a privilege for them to be in the United States, and as a result, they mainly will pander to, basically, for lack of a better term, white people. So by pandering, it means they'll give up their culture, they'll give up their language, they'll turn their back on their entire way of life, at least in some way, shape, or form, in order to fit in the United States more and more. And they're also classified as being model minorities because when it comes to physical or romantic relationships, they tend to only prefer white people. Or so that's how it's portrayed. They'll do anything to be white, to be loved by white people, even though clearly they're not white people. And so, part of the reason they're called model minorities is if every minority acted this way, the feeling is that things would be a lot better. So, how does this apply to minorities? How does this apply to Asian people, or with my block being Korean-centric, how does this apply to Korean people? This term, model minorities, typically is only given to Asian people that behave a certain way. And so a lot of people will look at Asian people, they'll look at Korean people, and feel that they are the perfect role model for minorities in the United States. So are Korean people model minorities? Excuse me. Do they fit this bill? Some, you argue, could fit this bill, but the majority of people that are Korean American, from my experience, do not even come close to fitting this bill. So many Korean American people that I know are so proud of their heritage, so proud of being a Korean person, to where it's almost the total reverse. They're very racist sometimes against non-Korean people. Very prejudiced, very standoffish at times against non-Korean people. Not wanting to be accepting or anything like that. Which, if you saw my previous video about the woman being told that she was dirty by her Korean pastor's wife because she married a black man, stories like that exist quite a bit. So, how do many Asian people, how do many Korean people feel about that title, model minority? To many people, it's actually quite offensive. And it's offensive for the fact that when you talk about someone being a model minority, it kind of waters down the fact that they are a minority and that they've gone through certain things. And so, especially at this time period, there's more and more stories of Asian people being attacked, Asian people being told to go back to China, even though they're not Chinese, even though some are actually born. Excuse me. Some are actually born here in the United States. They are United States citizens. They are, by birth, American. But they're being told that they need to leave. And so, to be casted in this light is definitely something that is hurtful, something that is offensive, something that you don't want to walk up and tell someone that they're a model minority, especially at this time period. So, what can people do to kind of get rid of that mentality that someone is a model minority? Well, if a person's a model minority, that means that other people are the exact opposite of that. They're not good role models. And a person's race has nothing to do with if they're a role model or not. It really has to do more with their behavior. And so you have good people and you have bad people in every race, every size, every shape, every skin color that's out there. So by all means, just because a person has an ethnic background that's Asian doesn't mean that they're going to behave a certain way, that they're going to do things a certain way. People will behave the way people will behave. There's other factors such as their environment, their religious background, did they have their parents in their home, things of that nature that will determine how a person behaves. Education level could be a determining factor as well. But it's just interesting that this young woman who got famous for being an attention seeker is getting all this negative attention now, and it's hurting a lot of people. And so, by all means, her views represent herself. At least what she says are her views. What her views might be privately could be something else. This could all be an act by her to get more attention, even though she's blacked off from Twitter right now. She might be blocked from some other things as well. But definitely, these are not the views of the vast majority of Asian Americans, nor should anyone assume that her behavior is typical of how newer Asian Americans will act as well. So, definitely it's a sad situation to see someone who is behaving in this manner, in a manner in which they would be endorsing the killing of themselves, because they would not be a desirable person if the ideas that they're preaching actually came about. And so it's just a sad situation all around. A lot of people hurt, a lot of people that are embarrassed. But as far as this notion that Asian people, Korean people are these perfect role models that will just cower away and not stand up for anything, that will do anything just to blend in. That's a very false notion. And for those that think that are not part of the Asian community, that have not studied anything with the Asian community, it's actually a very offensive notion to so many people out there, and for so many people it's a hurtful notion because the discrimination, the pain that people have gone through for being different gets washed away because of that notion of being a model minority. So I just wanted to talk briefly about that. Definitely let me know what you think. If you've heard that term model minority before, how you think these actions from this young lady affect other people. Or if you're someone who's Vietnamese, someone who's Asian American, and you're seeing her in these pictures hailing Hitler, allegedly saying all this racist stuff against herself and her children and against you, how do you feel about that? And again, if you want to read anything that I have to write, if you have any questions or topics for me, you can reach me at waygookinway.com. WAYGOOKINWAY.com. Thanks, and I'll talk to you again later. Goodbye.